Hey, if you're a home builder in Austin and you're looking for an Austin video production company that can actually understand the home building market and can help you grow your business, then I think you're really going to love this video. Hi, I'm Mark Wonderland, owner of Mosaic Media Films, and we're the top-rated Austin video production company that specializes in helping home builders sell more homes faster, attract qualified buyers, and showcase their communities. So let's get into it. Okay, so as a home builder, before you can start anything as it relates to creative or logistics of a project, a lot of times I'll see people and they want to get right into the video production. They're like, we want to tell a story about us. We want to tell what makes us uniquely different and why we make homes so special and how we make it easier for the customer. Before you can do any of that, you really have to follow this 5-step process. And we call it the Mosaic method. And that is, you need to define the win, know your viewer, you have to map out their journey, you have to turn objections into stories, and then you build the engine, okay? Now, I'm not gonna go too into detail about each one of those steps in this particular video. If you wanna learn more about that exact process, including workbooks, detailed videos, and other helpful content, then just click on the link in the description for the Mosaic method, and you can download a 5-video educational series on how to do that. Now, we're gonna talk a little bit about that throughout this video and touch on some of these points. It just isn't gonna go into great detail. So as a home builder, what we're gonna talk about is really the top 3 videos that you really need to be focusing on that are gonna help really move the needle. And it's gonna help build a system of videos that'll work for you and really build that engine to be most effective. So the number 1 video that you can create is called a business promo or a brand story video. Now, a business promo or brand story video essentially is the who you are, what you do, what makes you uniquely different. But here's the thing, what most people get wrong is that they tell a story too much about them and not about the customer. So you really need to be speaking to your specific audience and how the builds that you make, the homes that you make, is going to relate to them, their lifestyle, their needs, their wants, their desires. So for instance, if you have a community and it's an elderly community, the messaging that you'd have about your brand or your business is going to be different than if you had a single family home, entry-level starter, less than 1,700 square foot. The style and the messaging of that video about your company is gonna be different because the audience is different. So when it comes to a business promo, that is what we call a flagship video. Most companies will have this video for 3 to 5 years, but you wanna make sure that you're focusing on not yourself as much as you are with your customer. So if you talk about yourself, it has to relate back to how does this help your ICP, your ideal client profile? To go back to that example, if it's an elderly community, 55 and up, then it's like, what are the things that they would need to know? What is the process that they would want to, the process that you do that makes life easier? Is it the construction build that we do is significantly faster so you can get into your house longer or get into your house quicker? Is it, unique amenities are going to help you live this lifestyle? So you're showing them what their life looks like. So you're relating everything back to the customer. But usually this type of video is a combination of 3 things. It's interviews, visuals with live action content, and then some layer of motion graphics or animation. So the narration component typically is going to be twofold. It's going to be narration from employees or staff members that can talk about their area of expertise and tell that story in a compelling way. The other component is going to be testimonials from people that have worked with you, that have bought your homes, have been in your communities, and can speak to the objections that the viewer has in their mind so they can kind of overcome those objections in the eyes and the view of someone else saying that that isn't their ICP. So let me explain this to you a little bit more clearly. So when it comes to customer testimonials, again, I'm gonna use this example of you have communities, it's a 55-year-up community, you're focusing on amenities and stuff of that nature and the speed of construction. So if you're getting a testimonial, you wanna say our target demographic is 55 to 75. Those are the people that really love this community. So you take a person in that community that is willing to talk about their experience working with you, getting the home built, what that was like. Now, what's key is that you want them to articulate what was an objection for them. What was the reluctancy
of either purchasing with you or not purchasing with someone else. So they might say something like, I was debating between a couple different communities that we really wanted to call our home. But in the past, we've had properties before and it's taken 2+ years to get built. But what really attracted me to this, this builder is that we could get in the house within 90 days. We could pick out all of our finishes and it'd be a brand new home and it would be exactly the way we wanted. And it was amazing and we just love it here. So they talk about the reluctancy that they had and then how they overcame that. And then ultimately the next step is, what does their life actually look like? So that's the narration component. The second component in that video is going to be the visuals, right? So you want to be able to tell the story and the tone of the audience, right? So depending on the audience that you have, you might want it to be high energy and fast. You might want it to be emotional and slow. You might want it to be kind of ups and downs with a hook, a climax, a conflict, and then more a relief of what happens after once that's reached. So ultimately, your visuals have to reflect that. So going back to this example with the home builder, with the elderly community, you want to show, in this case, I would lean more towards, depending on the brand, I'd lean more towards like softer visuals, slower motion, nice sunlit background of people, and showing the lifestyle, trying to illustrate to people what life looks like when they're in this community. So you're selling the lifestyle of it. So if there's pickleball courts and there's access to, the lake, and there's community events, and all these other things and all these great amenities, you're illustrating that, but you want to show the lifestyle of other people that look like them living that experience. So that's the way typically the visuals go. So you have your narration component, which is interviews and testimonials, and then you have your visual component, which is your live action. The third component is going to be kind of what we call motion graphics or animation. This gives it a little bit more polish, it reinforces information, and it really helps educate the viewer a little bit more. So it can be in the form of a checklist, it could be titles, it could be, graphics, it could be illustrations. We've worked with companies where they don't have the community completed. So we're showing renderings and illustrations to help visually highlight that. Or it's a very large area and we want to pinpoint, okay, here's the park, here's the pool, here's the pickleball court, and we're highlighting that. So we're adding on a layer of graphics and animation to better illustrate, what it's going to look like, what their life is going to look like. So that is your flagship video and the number one that you want. Most clients that have these have them for 3 to 5 years. Now, the example I gave was about one community, and you could have a promo on each community, or you could have a business promo or brand story about the company in general. What are the core values? What do we stand for when you buy and build with us? This is what you can expect, whether it's a community that's for this demographic, or community for this demographic, or community for this demographic, or this location. This is who we are and what we do and what makes us uniquely different, shown in the eyes of the customer, in this case being the home buyer. So you could have separate videos on communities, or you could have an overarching video that talks about the brand in general. So that's video number one. Video number two is taking that testimonial step further and creating additional testimonials. So I mentioned earlier about that objection turned success kind of story, about how they had some reluctancy, how they overcame that, and what their life actually looks like. So that's one little excerpt, and that could be a video in and of itself. It could be a little part in your main video, but for a testimonial, you really want to tell a compelling story about someone's unique journey. And when it comes, to being a home builder, you're telling that story of, that American dream, right? So, why they found this community so amazing. What was it like working with the builder? What does it mean to them? It's not just a house and a place to live and a place to sleep. It's a place to maybe, raise their kids. It's, to explore and live life to the fullest. It's to, be on hiking trails, be close to the lake, and have a different lifestyle. It could be a myriad of different things, but the idea is that you're telling these unique stories from these core individuals that are in your primary demographic. So what I like to do with every client is try to narrow it down to a minimum of 3 different ideal customer profiles, right? So for this community, the people that we want are first-time home buyers that are a little bit younger. A lot of times they're just getting out of college. They want something that's affordable, that's new, that has easy access to downtown, and so on and so forth. So like that would be one ICP. Maybe a second ICP is this is someone's second home. They maybe were renting before and now they've personally owned a property and they want it here. And then maybe the third ICP is this is a low cost, affordable for someone that's maybe like in their early 50s. They don't want to go to a senior community, but they want to have just a house that's like easy to maintain, single floor and stuff of that nature. And you have models for each one. Okay, so these are the core ICPs, right? So in this community, and obviously I'm kind of making this up, but you can kind of see what the idea of going through this process is. So you want to identify those core demographics, and then you want to look at each one. What person in our community best exemplifies this criteria? And can we tell a story about their experience that would resonate with other people in that demographic as well? So, what is their age? What is their demographics? What are maybe their jobs or their lifestyle? And what are the core things that are important to them? And how can that relate to other people in that same situation, that same demographic that we can create the story on? And that then becomes the foundation of what you're going to create. Now, when it comes to this second video, this testimonial, identifying the people is one of the biggest criteria. And then telling the story in a compelling way is really the second component. The third thing is really basing the video on your marketing strategy. Because at Mosaic, we don't just create pretty videos to create pretty videos. We're creating a series of videos told in the right way to the right audience at the right time. So in this scenario, particularly for home builders, you may want to have testimonials at the top, middle, and bottom of the funnel. And depending on the content and the length and the duration could be different. At the top of the funnel, you could have a short form video that really highlights why they moved there, talk about the accolades, just to get people's attention, just to grab them stop from scrolling to get them to hear this story. Then you take them to a landing page that shows the community, finishes telling the longer form story, and really helps them understand a little bit more like, is this a good fit for me? Again, seeing someone else go through the experience really helps in that process, and that's why testimonials are so powerful. Then on the bottom of the funnel, you could take an excerpt of that, create another video, and that objection turns success. So you see how you have top, middle, and bottom of the funnel, all with potentially one interview, with one person or one couple, and that's being marketed to that audience. The retargeting is where you'd have that objection turn success. So what happens is they get interested in your ad, maybe on like Facebook or Instagram. You drive them to the page, you pixel them, you show them the longer form video, which is that 2 to 3 minute story, and then you retarget them with an objection turn success from that same individual and that same demographic. So they reiterate, I was reluctant to go here because it was a little bit further out than I wanted, but ... and they explain that story. So it's really trying to understand the mindset of the person watching the video. What are they thinking? What is the conversation that they're already having in their head? What is the story that they're telling themselves? And how do they want that to play out from a positive side, or in this case, from maybe a reluctancy, okay? So that is your second video, and incredibly powerful to show that as a testimonial. So you have your brand story, your business promo is your flagship video. That's video number one. Your second one is your testimonial video. And your third one is gonna be your social videos. And what's great is you can create social videos from the other two that I just mentioned. So you can take really good excerpts from the brand story, or you can take, let's say your brand story is 3 minutes, you can take components of, each part of that video and combine it to a shorter form story or one little tidbit about the business. And it can be used and leveraged organically to talk about the company, what makes it uniquely different, or it can be leveraged in ads more strategically, whether it's to talk about some of the main highlights and selling points of it, again, to drive people to look at the community, to look at the properties, and get them in for a showing. So when all of these work together, you have a combination of testimonials and social ads on the top of your funnel. You have your brand story and your long form testimonials in the middle of the funnel. And then you have retargeting content in the form of, objection turn success and other social content to really attract people back to the page to get them to schedule a showing or stop on in and see the community. So if you're a home builder, this is really a foundational strategy in the top 3 videos that you want to do. So let me give you a couple examples of some clients that we worked with. We've worked with a ton of different home builders. I'm just going to narrow it down to 3 and tell you a little bit about each one of them. So for Champion Homes, they specialize in creating prefabbed homes in combination with traditional, stick building is what we've commonly called it when we work with them. So basically what we did was we told the story about why this is important, how it benefits the customer, and how it's dramatically different. So it was a combination of visuals of narrating the story through every step of the process, but a combination of like great, beautiful visuals of a finished home and what that looks like, but also articulated the construction process and educating people on why this is beneficial to them. So they can get a home that, looks like a traditional stick build, but it's way faster and it's also like significantly cheaper in some situations. So they can get into their home quicker, they can still pick out all their finishings and all the things that they want, and they can do it more effectively and quicker. And with Champion, with the particular property that we're doing, it was in a community of itself. So it wasn't like they had to find their own land or anything like that. So we articulated that story, showed some compelling visuals. Over the course of this process, we filmed with them for almost 6 months, showing the entire process from conception all the way to the finished completion of the homes. That is a compelling video that we created for them. That was their flagship video, and then from that, we created a series of social videos as well that were shorter and mid-form. They went ahead and launched that video when they used it as an investor pitch, when they're trying to get more funding for new communities to kind of show and tell that story. They use it on their website, they branded it on social media, and they leveraged that video in a variety of different ways with not only the main story, but also the cut downs. So for them, it's like, if we're building a community of 100 homes, every single person goes through our system and goes through our process where they see this video, whether it's on our homepage or through an email or otherwise, to get a better understanding about what makes Champion Homes different. So that was one for Champion Homes. Another one that we created was for a company called Upright Homes, and they're totally different than Champion. So instead of fabricating off-site, Upright builds from the ground up, ultra custom. They have a completely different ICP. So their ICP is looking at a property between $2 and $5 million, and they want someone that has a complete and utter turnkey solution, which is what Upright does. And that's what makes them so special, is that instead of dealing with multiple contractors, you have to deal with an architect separately, and then you have to work with the builder and then a general contractor, and then the general contractor hires out all the subs. They pretty much worked exclusively with the customer from start to finish. Everyone is well connected, from the initial architectural drawings to structural, the general contractor that's going to do everything, to the final, where there's actually an interior designer that works closely with you on designing the interior of your home, not only with all the finishes, but more importantly with all the furniture and the pieces that you put in your home. So they have a complete and utter turnkey solution that makes it amazing. So as a part of the story for them, we used a very similar formula where we interviewed a variety of different individuals at the company at every stage. So we talked to the GC, the designer, the CMO, who articulates exactly what makes them uniquely different, how their process is, and what you can expect when you invest in an Upright Home and you invest in working with them. What you're going to get out of it is something incredibly unique, very inspiring, and a place that, for some people is their forever home. So that was the formula we did for Upright. On the visual side, we wanted to show a little bit more, probably an 80-20, 80% the finished project, because that's really what we're selling, and then 20% a little bit of the construction, because that is a part of the process. In some situations, we don't want to show that a ton because it's not really what excites people. They know it's a part of the process, but most viewers don't really want to see, especially with this a high-end $2 to $5 million home. They don't really want to see or think about the messiness of construction. They just want to get through it so they can get to that end state. And that's why we showed a lot of great visuals of, the pool, the outdoor area, the custom kitchens, the custom layout of the rooms, the beautiful decor, and all the high-end finishes to really help sell that vision of what it's like working with Epright and how seamless they're going to make it and build their dream home. So that was for Epright. So we created that flagship video that lives on their website. Again, goes through their email sequences so people know about them. And then we created a couple short form videos that they used and leveraged on social media. Now, the third one I'm going to talk about is Tri Pointe Homes. So Tri Pointe Homes has been a long-term client of ours, and we've done a ton of projects with them. We've done individual customer testimonial stories. We've done stories about communities. We've done stories about, the greater community as it is, like moving to a certain city and what it's like there, encouraging people about their different properties. We've done highlights on their entire kitchen arsenal and the amazing setup they have with that. And one video that I want to tell you about is what we called like a launch video for a community. So if you're a large builder similar to Tri Pointe, one of the things that they do is they have this huge kind of almost master plan community. And what happens is when you're in that master plan community, one of the things you really need to do is you need to create an interest list. So as they're going through all the foundational things and they're grading the land and they're scoping out where everything is going to be and they start doing the construction, it's incredibly capital intensive before you can start selling the actual homes and getting some of that revenue back that you're putting into that initial investment. So the main goal is to how can we get prospective buyers to get on a list so when the homes are available to show, we can have a huge amount of people that are there, that are interested, that want to see the properties and ultimately will buy the properties in this master plan community because there's a lot of volume of homes. So what we did was we collaborated with Tri Pointe and we created basically a video articulating what the community was like. So we're telling that story about what their life is going to look like, how far it is, what are the amenities like, really telling that story in a way to get people excited about this upcoming community. So this is for the ideal person that maybe is thinking about moving, but they're not ready yet, or they have a little bit longer time frame, and it's on their radar, or they didn't know about the property in this point was in Liberty Hill. So what we did was we had, instead of a narrated traditional interview style, we did a scripted direct to camera articulated script that talked about this is the community, this is how far it is, this is what the culture is like, this is what the local restaurants are like, this is what the vibe in the town is like. And by the way, here is what the community is going to look like. It's gonna have a pool, it's gonna have a playground, it's gonna have pickleball courts. And then you're articulating this through graphics, through animation. We're showing actual shots of the community and trying to sell that lifestyle to them. And then also encouraging them to sign up on this interest list. So what's great about this Tri Pointe one is that they get a 27% increase in their interest list once they introduce this video into their sales funnel. So they were able to get a huge amount of people that signed up to learn more. And then when the community models were available, these people were primed, ready, and willing to go look through the homes, talk to an agent, and ultimately, decide if they wanted to move or not. So in this thing with a master plan community, it's all about volume and getting a mass amount of people. And this video really helped them tremendously with that. So if you're a home buyer, I hope this video has been helpful to you. And we've gone over basically the Mosaic method, which is like the 5-point process. If you're interested in that, just click on the link below to check that out. We went over kind of the 3 main videos that you need to be thinking about, which is a brand story or business promo, a testimonial, and some social content. And then of course, going over some of the clients that we've recently worked with to give you a better handle on how you could, use story and really well marketed videos at the right time, the right length, and the right audience to really help move the needle for your business.
So if you're a home builder in Austin and you're ready to talk about how the right video strategy can move the needle for your business, just click on the link below in the description and book a free 30-minute strategy call with me directly. We'd love to be your Austin video production company and help your brand stand out in video that helps drive results. Thanks so much for watching and hope to talk to you soon.